And we're live.
Woo!
Apparently, we've been live for 15 seconds. Hi, welcome to the show. This is Whiskey and Lipstick. I am Theresa, the Canadian whiskey smith. And you probably do not know this lady next to me. This is my friend Harmony. And you will notice that Sarah is not present tonight. Unfortunately, she got herself sunburnt. Oh, she got herself sunburnt yesterday while at a distillery event, and so yeah, she's not doing too well today. So she is hanging out offline. But Harmony, tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah, I'm gonna start off. I'm pouring my Teeling pot still because we're gonna be talking Irish tonight. So I'm gonna get some whiskey going, and while I'm doing that, you tell me who is Harmony when she's at home.
I wished I was at a distillery yesterday, as Sarah was. I would skip the sunburn, though. But I'm from Calgary, and I've been in the whiskey industry for about 7-8 years. Been in the industry for about 11. And I love whiskey, and I love Teeling. So when Theresa asked me last minute if I could jump in, I couldn't say no. I had to say yes. Because
of course you did.
Yeah, and if you follow Theresa's posts on Instagram, you'll know that I twisted her rubber arm to get some Irish whiskey, which I also picked up that same bottle that you did.
Oh, yes, yeah. The Merlot cask.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get that one going in a bit.
I didn't tell you, but my bottle's all signed.
Now, how did you manage to do that? I haven't even looked at mine, but I'm pretty sure it's not signed.
I don't know. Even my tube is signed. So, yeah. Honestly, I don't know who signed it, though. So I'm going to have to do some research to see if this is like a Jack Teeling or who.
Oh, probably. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would hope so.
All right. So I have got the... So you posted about this one, which was the pot still, and the thing about Irish pot still whiskey, and this is something that I always have to kind of remind myself of, is that it's not just because it's made in a copper pot still. It's the pot still style. That's the blend of the malted and the unmalted barley, which is what is sort of that distinctive Irish style.
It's really interesting. A lot of people antiquate the Irish style as triple distilled. That's Irish. But we missed the bigger part of that pot still definition, which really, I think, adds to that creaminess, that kind of heavy, weighty feeling that we love so much from Irish whiskey.
Well, I just, wow. Like, I'm looking at like, it's just coating, like, the entire inside of this glass. Like, it is just, it looks dense, and it's not even like, it's only 46%, so it's not like it's a huge whiskey, but that's
I wish I had picked that up. I didn't. I'm gonna start with the small batch. Just so classic. It's that rum cask finish.
Oh yes,
yeah, just that like little bit of sugar on top, you know. Yeah.
Goodness. So you've been working in the Calgary, liquor industry really for quite a while now, and you're one of my first whiskey friends that I met, and I met, that was when you were working at World of Whiskey, which is exactly, if you're not familiar with the Calgary scene, World of Whiskey is exactly that. It is wall-to-wall whiskey. There's a small section of spirits in the one back corner with a tiny little, beer fridge.
Yeah, back when it started, little tiny beer fridge, maybe like, little 8-foot section shelf of wines. And a little 4-foot section of like other spirits. that you might find. But when we opened our doors 7 years ago, it was boasting Calgary's largest whiskey selection at around 600 whiskeys, 500, 600 whiskeys. I was able to join the team with the manager as the solo staff, and along with the manager, he really groomed me and allowed me to kind of put my own opinion and my own bottles on the shelf, and we grew that within 2 to 3 years to like over 1,700 different whiskeys.
Like it's in Canada the largest number of SKUs for any one store. Is that correct? Like,
well, for whiskey, like if we're talking whiskey
yes,
alone,
yeah, whiskey alone, the whiskey SKUs. So,
absolutely crazy. And the Irish whiskey section is, of course, blowing up. It had to get moved just before I left. We moved the location of the bottles to a new part of the store so that they could expand, because Irish whiskey is just exploding. And I'm sure you've all seen more and more expressions being released from, like, Bushmills released a cognac finish number 10.
My goodness.
I
should have some Bushmills. That is like the one of the core distilleries, right? Because Ireland, the Irish industry was about to be decimated. They made all the wrong choices. Oh, did we lose somewhere? Somebody's saying that they lost video. I don't know. I'm gonna see if it's. Of course, there's a delay, so now I can't even see if. I feel like I'm making a face.
It's just you. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't like saying that's good, but it's almost better. It's just one person.
Okay, good. All right. So maybe Emily just log off and log back in. Maybe that'll turn it off and on. Isn't that the old IT thing?
That's right.
turn it off and on. But what I was saying is, like, at one point, the Irish industry was about to be decimated. They had made all the wrong choices, and Scotch had made all the right choices, while America was in the middle of Prohibition, and there were so many things that were just not going right, and it seemed like one thing after the next. And so, in a last-ditch effort to save Irish whiskey, they consolidated all production at Middleton, which is the makers of Jameson's and Redbreast. And so they basically they were the Irish equivalent of MGP in the US. MGP makes so much of the bourbon that gets bottled. So that was what was happening. And then slowly we've now seen, they managed to keep Bushmills going. That was still part of the same conglomerate.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cooley opened and was sold, and now their Teeling is back, and it's an exciting time, and we're seeing so many new little brands popping up all over the place.
The Irish whiskey community has learned that making more doesn't mean it's better. That's exactly what happened. Is they were just producing mass amounts of whiskey with terrible flavor. And it just completely destroyed their reputation. So thank goodness, though, for Middleton, because they still, obviously they have very large stocks, because they've produced this whole time. Yeah. That's why we get the Redbreast 27. I mean, it's a single barrel, but it's still out there. But we're able to get these 12 and 15-year-old age statements out of distilleries that have just popped up, and it's because they get to buy really excellent barrels, and a lot of them are predominantly single malt, which is really interesting. Like Bushmills has been consistently single malt through its entire existence, which I think is one of the things that attracts me to them as an Irish distillery, being 100% single malt, not pot still. I mean, it is a pot still, but it's not pot still defined. So
that's the thing. They do, of course, pot still not being just the stuff, not just the distillation style. It's the combination of that malt and unmalted. But yeah, they are doing. I love Teeling. So
Mhm.
you're now at Kensington Wine Market, which is another big geeky place where
Yeah.
their whiskey wall is small but tall
Oh
and
yeah.
and chock full of the more interesting things and not necessarily always just the core releases of things. So it's a smaller operation, but with some of the most interesting options
Yeah.
available. So,
Yeah, Kensington Wine Market is like Canada's most like if you look up like Canadian whiskey shop, like that is going to come up.
right.
It's globally recognized as like the shop in Canada to shop at. And part of it is because it's been around for 30 years, it's privately owned. And so the people who run the business are not just sitting behind desks, they're getting on planes and they're flying to all of these
Yeah.
distilleries around the world and building relationships and buying casks and bringing them back. So that is one of the things that I'm most excited about at this job. There's never less than 12 single casks available at any one time. They're just constantly
It,
growing.
it's
And
insane.
yeah, and then on top of that, they're the Springbank Society store. They get like massive amounts of boutique bottlings. They're the um, what is it? Scotch Malt Whiskey Society location as
Yeah.
well. So there's a lot of like benefits, perks, and club memberships that kind of fall into play at this store. And then you have like some of my coworkers who also run their own whiskey clubs,
Yes.
which I know
There's no
you're a
shortage
part
of whiskey culture
of.
at
None at
Kensington,
all.
that's for sure. So
Yeah.
I had a question because you posted or you shared a picture. Maybe it wasn't a post. Maybe it was in our WhatsApp chat. I can't remember. But you posted about this Teeling pot still,
Yeah.
which is not a single cask. It's not a Kensington exclusive. Is this part of their core? Is this a new addition for their core? Not addition, addition to their core line? Are we going to be seeing this all the time, or is it only a special? We'll get a few of them once in a while, or
I believe
what
it
do
is
you know
now
about
part
it?
of their core line. My
Okay.
understanding, it's new. It's just their newest one. It comes in that beautiful blue tube.
Hmm.
It pops right off the shelf. I was so giddy when I saw it come in. I just ran up, grabbed it, snapped it, and was like, "Oh my god, it's here!" And more Teeling. I love it. Um,
Right.
and the week before that, I tried. Um, think my oldest Teeling to date, which was the Kensington Wine Market 15-year Armagnac cask. And it spent 18 months, 19 months in that Armagnac barrel. Like it was not a short
Yeah.
time. Um,
No.
Previous to that, I think I had some of the Revival series and those beautiful decanter bottlings
Oh.
that were around 12 and 14 years, the Pin de Chance and the Sauternes, but I'd never had a 15-year.
Yeah.
So even though the pot still is young and a blend of different casks, um, I haven't tried it yet,
It's
but I'm
so
excited to.
okay. I will have to make sure you get a sample. And that's part of being part of a community, right? It's great to be able to share samples and try things that you wouldn't normally get to indulge in. It's great to have whiskey friends for that reason. So
Totally.
um,
Yeah.
so I'm moving on. And speaking of that Armagnac cast, so I know for a fact there was one there with the year before they brought out a 16-year
Mm.
something or other that was a Kensington exclusive. But I'm starting to see from other markets a lot of these older Teeling single malt, single casks that are coming out as store releases. So I'm gonna dip into the Armagnac cask because this is my whiskey of the year last year. I
Awesome.
really really enjoyed it. That pot still one, it's got an interesting. There's something really funky happening on the finish with it. I am going to need to sit with it. It's soft and approachable, and just really really You'll have to. I'll either have to give you a sample, or you have to come for a tasting, and
we can make it happen.
we
So,
will
but
make
you
something
said it
happen.
was really, really thick in the glass, and it hung and gave lots of thick legs. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting, um,
Yeah.
and lovely. I love this Armagnac. I chose this in our Shamrock and Shenanigans tasting.
Oh, right.
Because I'm typically not a cognac fan. Like it's fine. It's not for me. So I
Right.
actually picked two cognac finishes for that lineup, and the Bushmills 10 to me was like recess gummies, those recess fruit
Ooh.
snacks, and like a hint of like grape Kool-Aid on the finish, like very lovely. And I was like, oh yeah, I could smoke a cigar to this. And then I jumped to the Teeling and was like, move over, Bushmills. This is incredible. I could smoke 100 cigars and drink this. Like I'm
Yes.
gonna need more bottles.
So I mean, compared to Bushmills, Teeling really are the new kids on the block. But I mean, compared to anybody in the world, or Bushmills is old. They're the oldest licensed distillery in the world. They've been around for more than 400 years. I mean, when people think whiskey and think like old whiskey, they think Scotch, and that's not really the way that it was. Like really,
Well, that's what happens when you shoot yourself in the foot with you producing so much garbage.
but at least they've really been building it again. But like really, whiskey kind of like even the word whiskey has its origins in that on the Irish side of things, and it was the Irish that decided that they didn't like that the Scottish were making Scotch and calling it whiskey, and it's different from what they were doing, and so they decided that okay, well you can keep that and you can be whiskey without an e, and they started adding the e because we're whiskey instead of whiskey. So you can blame the Irish for that too.
The confusion's all theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I bring up Bushmills so much is because Teeling has so many single malt options, and so you can't compare them to many other Irish distilleries because there's pot still whiskey that comes into play, or blends that often come into play.
Yes.
Because they're not true distillery houses; they're companies and bottlers. And so Teeling, to me, is like it's really growing on me. Not like, are they making all their own malts? Are they buying right now? I don't even know. Shameful.
For Teeling,
Mm-hmm.
Teeling's distilling their own, and they have been for quite some time. But yeah, I don't. So I've heard a few different rumblings. I've heard that back when the original Teeling distillery, which was Cooley, that they managed to keep some of their back catalog of casks, and that's why they have this depth of older stock. But then just in the last couple of months, I heard a rumor that there was something else that happened, that they somehow accidentally came into a windfall opportunity to buy up or buy back some old casks of Cooley stock. So I don't know which one is the truth. But oh yeah. So which one are you sipping on right now? You still working on that rum cask, or?
No, I switched with you to the 15 year.
Oh, isn't it good? Like it's got a nice fruitiness and.
Oh yeah, it's so fruity, but you definitely get that malty tone. It comes through. It's like sweet farm malt. Yeah, a little bit of raisin, a little bit of that. Definitely, you can smell.
But golden raisins, like that sultanas or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's some good stuff right there.
Mm-hmm. And not shy on the alcohol with this one, 58.4.
I know, which is so nice. I'd like to get like all of those really interesting flavors that you get when it's that little bit heavier on the alcohol. You get a little bit more depth of things coming through, and yeah, I just see. I'm one of those nerdy people. I keep my. Oh, are you got a visitor? No men on camera. This is a ladies' stream. I'm geeky. I keep my little ends. All the fiddly bits. Got to keep the fiddly bits in the can.
Oh yeah, I used to do that too. Just shove them right in the bottom of the tin and just keep everything together. Because I live in an apartment and not a house, I've learned that I have to let go of things, and the tiddly bits are the first to go, and often the tubes, depending on where they're stored in the house.
Right.
The tubes can go. Yeah.
All right. I think I'm going to do one more. So one more Teeling before I move on to a different Irish. If I can get this one to, and this is the other one. So I'm blaming you for the fact that I spent so much money on whiskey this last week.
It was on sale though, right?
It was on sale.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is another of the single casks that have been starting to make their way into the markets. And this one was done for Co-op, which was who you had been working for when it was World of Whiskey. And this one is aged in a Merlot cask. And I don't think I've had a Teeling in a wine cask. So I'm excited to give this one a try. I love wine casks. And so I have to.
Yeah, I've had other wine casks, but I don't know if I've had a Merlot cask in a wine. Bordeaux, sure, Marsalas, Madeiras.
I'm sure I'm sure that Longro has probably done a Reds cask that was a Merlot at some point.
But I can check. I have many of them, but I don't think I have a Merlot.
We're gonna have to do a Campbelltown Funk night. Yeah.
When I turn 40, we're gonna open all of them. That honestly is my plan. I've been collecting the Reds and the local barleys, and I say on my 40th we pop them all. Why not?
Cool. That would be really good. So I'm just going to come back to a thing because I did ask. I'm curious what everybody is drinking. If you're drinking some Irish or you're drinking something else. So John is saying B518, and to be completely honest, I don't know. So I'm really sorry, John. If you could expand a little bit, because that is one that I'm not sure what B518 is.
I feel
I don't know. I even in all of the different groups online that I get to be part of at times, people throw out these acronyms. It's like I have to look them up. It's like, oh, there it is, Elijah Craig. Okay,
yes. I figured it was a batch bottle.
Okay, that I'm like. I see the EH or EHT, SB, right. And XYZ, LMNOK.
That's right. And defining these whiskey acronyms is it's a tell of your seasonality in the industry. It's like reading those abbreviated text terms, but for whiskey geeks.
I feel so old sometimes when people throw out some of those different things.
Ooh.
I just, Powers, 3 swallows. I don't think we've got that. There are only a handful of places in Calgary that even sell Powers. But that Powers Gold Label, you sold me a bottle of Powers Gold Label the one year. I used it in my homemade Irish cream, and it's probably the best Irish cream I've ever made. But even just to sip it on its own, holy crap, that was good stuff.
Yeah, not expensive.
Just don't let the hipsters know about it because it'll jack the price up.
It's candy. I love it. It's like Irish whiskey candy. The other Irish whiskey that I love That's really great value. I think here in Alberta, it's like $57. The Tyrconnell single malt, just the standard.
Yes.
Yeah, like
I
beautiful.
don't know that I've actually I must have had some Tyrconnell. Is it Tyrconnell or Tricon? I'm never sure how to pronounce that one. I'll same with the
I think it's
Glen
Glendalough.
Glendalough. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce some of these things because I don't know if they're supposed to be a Gaelic or something. And I'm so
I'm pretty
Canadian.
sure it's just Glendalough because I watched a video from their distillery, like on their distillery page when I was preparing my
Yeah.
homework one year. And he had a very thick accent and it was just straightforward. Nothing funny.
All right.
Glendalough or Glendalough. It's okay.
Glendalough. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So there's so many, like there are some amazing things out there that I know the names and I can't remember if I've actually had a chance to try them or not because there are just so many. I want to try them all. It's like
Yeah.
Pokemon.
I'm right. I see Irene commented that she's
Mhm.
drinking a Clonakilty cask at Christmas Day,
Yes.
and so cool. Clonakilty is excellent. Like their bourbon stuff, like their standard is really good. And if you like a little bit of the wine finishes, the port barrel is good. But I think at the moment that's all that's come to Alberta are those two bottlings.
So Irene is one of my whiskey sommelier compatriots, and she actually is a co-owner or an owner of a store in Connecticut, and very similar from like her whole philosophy is if she has a bottle and somebody wants to know what it tastes like, she will basically open that bottle and pour a tasting so that they can try it. And she is to Connecticut and the East Coast as what I would think of as Kensington is to the Calgary market, because she will just hey, sole owner on this one. That's right. I couldn't remember for sure on this one. So this is her own store now, completely, and one of the most amazing whiskey women that I've had the pleasure of meeting. It's she talks about all of her store picks, and she's probably, Andrew is second only to her, or I wouldn't want to like try and guess who goes through more
Ooh.
single casks. But
we should just put them in a room and let them battle.
Oh my god. They'd be racing to see who can get their signature on the best casks. And then do a sell-off to see who sells through their casks the fastest, because there are some of those Kensington casks, you guys sell through them in like 48 hours. And I know Irene has some of hers that just go like that too. Yeah. So
it's so frustrating because I came
especially
in
when you want to buy them.
I know. I came into Kensington, I think 2 or 3 days after they released their latest, like Erin 14, and I was still new, and like there were dozens of bottles open, and like, oh, please try it and learn the product. But I'm like, I'm new. I'm not going to get like sauced and be digging into every bottle every day, and so I hesitated to try it, and by the time I did and got my paycheck, it was long gone. And it was so frustrating. And of course, the sample bottle, as soon as you sell out, like the owner is like, oh, this was an excellent bottle. You ain't taking that home. And yeah, so I have customers that come in and they're like, oh, I just finished my bottle. Do you have any more? And I'm like, no, man, at least you had one.
Was that the peated Erin?
Yes, it was.
I did you didn't get to try it at all?
I did. I tried it and was like,
good.
Excellent. They're like, it's sold out. I'm like, of course it is. and
I contributed to selling out. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I have a bottle.
Okay. That's good. I'm happy people have bottles. I did get to try it. It was very good. It had like almost like a mesquite note to it. It was really different. Yeah.
It was so good. I did really enjoy that one. Oh, Michelle's got to go. So thank you for joining in a bit, Michelle. Great to see you. All right. So now I'm trying to figure out what I want to go to next, because
Oh,
I've got my 3 Teelings. And the fortunate unfortunate thing with Teeling, so we were supposed to have one of the local reps on tonight. Her name is Erin. She works for Southern Glaziers, and it unfortunately, she had something that happened on Friday and was no longer able to participate tonight. And so that's why, Harmony was kind enough to jump in and be my co-host, Whiskey Geek, to talk about some of these things, especially as somebody who's working in the local market and being able to talk about some of these new things that are that we're seeing and liking to see in general. But so I still wanted to really focus on the Teeling to get us started, but I also want to dip into another one, and I see you've got one too.
I the same day as I told you about this one. I
know
I dropped an obscene amount of money at that old co-op store. Oh, and the redhead is so good.
Well, and this is the one. So this was actually, I think this was probably the first bottle of whiskey you ever sold me.
Oh my goodness. Is it empty? It better be empty.
No.
A long time ago.
Are you kidding me?
You need to drink
well,
that.
It's because I'm getting there.
Okay. You're getting there. They have a whole new package now for that redhead.
They do. Well, the thing is that there was so much of this that we, for a while there, the local distributors had changed, or they had been dropped by Writers Tiers dropped their distribution in Alberta because they were not really stepping it up the way that they needed to. And so it took a while for them to find new representation. And so for a couple of years there, we weren't getting any more. So I was hoarding this. This was like gold for me. But they have new representation. I went to an in-person tasting.
Wow. That's exciting.
Yes, that was at Willow Park, the place that shall not be named. No, they had. Anyway. I went anyways, and we have access to some really great whiskey places here in Calgary. I can't.
We are so lucky.
Good about them. So I'm going to have a little bit of this, but I went to the tasting, and I bought the double oak. Yes, they called. I wasn't sure if it's double cask or double oak, so they called it double oak. I did buy that one. I might crack it. But there again, so we were talking a little bit about the fact that there are new players coming to town. And it was so awesome to see, like Writers Tiers is one of those brands where they are sourcing their stock from a producer like Middleton, doing their own little thing with it, and then putting it out there. And they are starting to distill their own. And we'll hopefully be able to start putting that out a little bit more. But I just
like Writers Tiers. I just posted them the other day, the redhead, in fact, because I enjoy it so much. It's such a classic whiskey. It's so approachable.
It is.
And the redhead, like, what a knockout addition to the line. Like,
I know.
They really did a really great job. Malt. I know.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm a sucker for wine casks. I'm a sucker for, sherry casks as well. And this is 100% sherry maturation from what I understand. So that's, it just smells fruity and light. And coming after like 2 cask strength, single cask Teelings there, it's not really fair. This is going to be really light, but it's also going to be very easy to just throw it back. And what have you got in your glass right now?
I poured myself a newer Irish whiskey, Waterford Organic Gaia 1.2.
Oh,
okay. I'm really enjoying this.
We have to. We have to nerd out on what I didn't grab my Waterford. I've got one of the single farm bottles down there. We have to nerd out about them in just a minute. Yeah. So I'm going to let you extol the virtues of the Gaias because I love their Gaias. But I wanted to just kind of take a quick kick back here. Irene was asking about whether we're still getting Erin single casks, and yes, we are. We I think Kensington, at least, Andrew usually brings in at least one or two a year.
Yeah,
And
sometimes
Pinch
more.
Hitter was asking if it was an Erin Macremore, and actually, that was part of the
Technically,
reason why I made a point of buying that one, is because
totally.
it was a peated Erin that
Yep.
was brought in under the Erin label. It was
Yeah.
not brought in on a Macremore label, and but it is a Lacranza distillation, so it's not part of the lag, which is coming up. They are getting ready to launch. I'm so excited.
Yes.
I I love Erin. I'm so in love with that. I am
Did
so in
you
love with
see
them.
on my
But,
shelf the yellow one is the Sauternes Erin? I saw that at Wow as
mm,
Wow and grabbed it because the Sauternes is hard to find. The Macremore though has been out of stock for years, and it's so frustrating because
I
I probably told every customer that walked in the door that they had to try it, and of course they did, and they all liked it, and now it's gone. Eh?
I have so I bought your last two Erin 14s,
Yeah.
and I think they were probably the last Erin 14s that were even in Alberta at all, possibly even in Canada, and I have them. And then I bought a Macremore cast strength as well. So I am planning a really nice Erin retrospective. At some point I need to have people
Yes.
over. Now that we can have and do all these things, I'm so, and we're gonna have to do an island night. That'll have to be a future
Ooh,
whiskey and lipstick thing,
yeah.
is do an island night. But
Hmm.
yeah, Irene's saying she's gonna have to go there when she's in Scotland this summer. I am planning one of these days I will make it to Scotland, and I don't even care how long I am there. I'm going to spend so much time on the island of Erin because I just
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, that's where your heart is.
It is. My heart belongs to Erin.
You've always loved Erin since the day you
I
tried them. Yeah, you were
pinch
sold.
hitter.
Yeah.
I only I don't think I know who pinch hitter is, but they show up in the chats for the live streams regularly. So thank you so much for that. But you are a person after my own heart, because likewise, I have not met an Erin I didn't enjoy. But
Well, what's to
anyways,
not like about them? Truthfully, like
oh,
they're so clean. Like if they sold new make, I would probably buy it. Like, and a lot of people
it,
say like, "Oh, I would never buy a bottle of new make. I just want to try it." And I know companies
so
have put out new make and done okay, and companies have put out new make and totally failed. But there's got to be magic in their new make.
oh, you know what? When their international rep, Mari, I think she pronounces it Mari, Mari. She came to Calgary a few years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
that was shortly after Lag had just started distilling, and she had a bottle of the Lag new make.
Oh, good.
And even though, like, don't tell anybody because it wasn't technically legal. So this is on the
No.
internet.
Yeah,
That
you can help see it.
yeah, she
It's
she
all
offered
drank now.
it's long gone. This is, statute of limitations, blah blah blah. It's gone. Uh she brought a bottle of Lag New Make, and after we finished the Erin tasting, we got to try the Lag New Make, and it made the Macremore taste unpeated.
Oh my gosh. Well, I
Which
can't wait.
The Macremore I think is around a 30, 35, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly, and the Lag is peating at around 50.
Excellent.
So, and of course, I mean, without it being casked, as soon as you cask it, it starts to
Pain.
mellow and change the interactions. But yeah, so I'm so curious. I really hope we get international distribution on their initial releases. So I will be,
That would be really
and
nice.
if not, I really hope that Irene, when she is over there, scoops up some,
A
and
case or
then
two.
we have to have some sommelier get-togethers or something in person so that I can But anyways, that's a whole we have to save that for Island Night, because tonight we are on the Emerald Isles, which is, Ireland. So Waterford, you
Yeah.
are drinking Gaia. So which Gaia is this? And I'll let you explain who Waterford is, because they are so awesome.
Well, I didn't know which Waterford to pick from. I had a lot. I've been saving samples because I try to save an ounce from every bottle, but sometimes I forget. And then you see like bottle kill on my post. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't saved. But the Waterford whiskeys are really cool. They are producing Ireland's first terroir-focused single malts, dispelling the difference between Irish and Scotch whiskey. They've gone with the E, no E in Waterford whiskey, and they are producing whiskeys based off of barley from different farms sourced all around different regions of Ireland. So if you pick up a bottle that says Ballymorgan, it's barley from Ballymorgan Farm. If it says Hookhead, it's Hookhead Farm. And the whole point of this is to create the first whiskey cuvee, similar to the wine world, if you're familiar with the wine blends and terroir.
I understand terroir, I've heard of cuvee, but I've never looked it up. I just kind of like, oh yeah, that.
It's a fancy way of saying blend, but from within the same house.
Oh.
So whereas some distilleries are like, okay, this is a blend of this cask, and this cask, we know it was distilled from the same house, because and they're distilling it from the same barley source. So whether they're have local farms or they're just buying in bulk from a producer, a malter, it's the same base batch ingredients. Waterford's malt changes from batch to batch to batch. So their blends are different grains in different casks, but all distilled in the exact same way, and aged for the same amount of time before blending. Yeah. At this time. So right now what we're seeing are lots of different farms, all distilled the same way and put into ex-bourbon barrels for 3 years, bottled at 50%. Everyone goes under that criteria. And then just not too long ago, they bottled the first cuvee, so the first blending of these farms. And then
the Gaias, right? So the Gaias are the blend, are their custom blends, right?
No, the Gaia is organic barley. So everything about the farming of the barley falls underneath the category of what is organic. And to be organic and certified, you have to go through lots of hoops and check off lots of dots to be certified. And I'm sure there are many farms out there that are organically farmed, but they're not certified. So these are certifiably organic grain that's being distilled into these. And so they've done a couple of different batches from this organic grain.
So I got to try the Gaia 1.1.
Okay.
And it has its terroir code. So I thought when we did that, I thought when I did that tasting, they had mentioned that the Gaias were a blend, but that would actually make more sense that they were. And they were actually and then I got to try the Gaia 1.2, and they were both very, very similar. Like all of when I was doing, so you can kind of, I don't know, this is not going to show very well. So this is a single farm. So that's a single farm one. That was Ballymorgan. And then, you can see that one has a different shape.
Yeah.
And that one was the Banno Island.
Yeah.
And then that one is Ballykincaven. So
Oh, interesting.
all of them very, very different,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
then when I did the Gaias though, and we did them, I did them separated a little bit. So there is
Oh,
the
yeah.
flavor map for the Gaia 1.1.
Okay.
And there is
Oh, yeah. They're pretty
Gaia,
similar.
very, very similar. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say that those ones are actually, it's just that those ones are organic
Yeah.
versus, but there's, are they still single
But
farm organic or are they
they are
blended?
single farm organic. So everything they do is single farm batch distilled. So they're
Oh,
not going to blend their barley before distillation. They'll blend after maturation.
okay. So I thought that the Gaias were a, a, a post maturation blend. And I thought that maybe that was the fingerprint then, that because they were so similar, that it was the fingerprint of their blender coming through. But maybe it's an element of it being organic. That's, or maybe it
Yeah.
was, Gaia's the same. I don't know. Maybe it is from the same distillery, but we were supposed to have Mark. So for that was from a club tasting that I did. And we were supposed to have Mark join us.
Oh,
But
yeah.
of course, there's a significant time difference.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently it was a hard day at the office. And
Yeah.
he came home and fell asleep and he missed our tasting.
I heard. I'm so sorry. I heard about that. That's
I'm
horrible. I mean, I'm sure it happens. I did a Sunday afternoon tasting with him on purpose so that I was catching him at around 11 o'clock at night. And it just
yeah.
so happened that Neil and Mark had finished a full Paris festival for the first time, their first in-person festival since they started
Oh,
distilling. And of course, by the time they hit the 3-year mark, we were well into COVID times. And so there was
right.
no tasting for this new distillery. It wasn't until just a few months ago they got into Paris, and it was their first tasting ever in person, their first festival. And then, of course, to Ned's pleasure, it was, wine country. And so here they are boasting this like wine background whiskey. Like, we're going to do what the winemakers do, but we're going to do it with whiskey. And so they brought their whiskey to Paris. And when we finally got them on camera, you can tell they had been talking all day, just running on
Right.
fumes, tired. But they were so excited at like the great reaction that they got from Paris and from everybody trying their whiskeys that were 3 years old. They were just like, it gave them like vindication that we're onto something. And if anybody knows anything about Mark, we know that he's been onto something for many, 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 many
Oh,
years.
my goodness. The guy is a legend in the industry. If you don't know, he comes from, like, he was one of the driving forces at Bruichladdich. I mean, everybody thinks about Jim,
Yeah.
Jim McEwen, but Mark was as much, if not more, from what I understand, at times,
Well,
a bigger part of even that Bruichladdich backstory. So I
he
mean,
was
he is bringing so
he was
much.
bigger than Jim. And unfortunately, like, and this is gonna upset people, but I'm ready for it. Jim got to reap the rewards of Mark's hard work and dedication. Mark was voted out of his shares unfairly and left Bruichladdich, and that's when they brought in Jim. The work had
Oh, is
been
that how
done.
that worked?
The
Okay.
work had been done. The whiskey was in the barrel and doing its beautiful thing. And then we get this blender that comes in, puts a little bow on it, and away we go. What great stuff you got here. So it's a little bit unfair, but luckily, Mark was not defeated by this. He knew he was onto something, and he took his knowledge and his passion to Ireland. And I
Well,
think the timing was perfect.
well, I think there was also, you add in the element of when you bring in investors and you have and you take other people's money,
Yeah.
that means they get a vote.
Yeah.
And the beauty of Waterford is, and maybe it's that silver lining of things, is that what Mark started at Bricklottie with being bought out, he was then able to take that and really do what he wanted to at Waterford. So I am excited because they are doing some of, not I don't want to say the first, because there are others in the industry who are doing amazing whiskey research. Spirit of Ven in Sweden, right?
Yeah.
They are also massively into, like, they will do like mass spectrometer kind of research and get into all of that chemistry of things that is absolutely amazing. And so, I mean, they've been doing that for years. I mean, the fact that, you know, when you see, like, they have their bottles, their beakers.
Yeah, I
There's
love
a
it.
reason
They're so nerdy.
it's so nerdy. They are whiskey nerds. And we are seeing, this is the perfect time. If you want to geek out about whiskey, this is the best time to be alive, because that research is happening. And you get those who want to poo-poo the idea of terroir, which is in whiskey that, you know, the French wine producers, and maybe it's not the French, maybe it's just wine producers, they, well, you know, grapes, you know, they come from the ground, that you have that essence, it comes through. As soon as you distill something, oh, well, you don't get that. You've taken that away. And
Yeah.
I don't believe that. Whiskey is a product of so many things. What it is made from, whether that's the grain, the yeast, the water, and then you add in the time, the casking, the aging, the elements that change how all of those things interact with the oak. Whiskey is a product of where it comes from, and Waterford is working to prove that scientifically.
Yeah.
And I would say that they're succeeding. It's hard to justify.
And the geek level of Waterford, it cannot be outdone by anyone at this point. They have the codes on the back of the bottle that, like, it'll literally tell you like what day it rained and how long it rained during the life cycle of the barley, which is cool. The day and time it was harvested, how long it sat in a truck before it was milled, like everything you didn't think you want to know about whiskey, you can find it at Waterford.
At Waterford, they are doing amazing things that way. The only thing that they aren't doing, and I've heard that there are plans, is that Ardnamurchan, and I think there's maybe a couple of others, but Ardnamurchan is using blockchain to do scanning so that you can scan through and you get this. I don't understand all of the geekiness of it because it goes to a whole new level, but there are different scan points all through the production cycle that you can then, when you get your bottle, you can go back and you can see, where did the grain come from? What was the this and the that? And there's all this information that is recorded through blockchain technology. And from what I understand, Waterford is maybe exploring that, which, if you are like that level of nerd, power to you. I just want the benefits of your research.
Yes.
But I get excited to know that people are doing it.
Yeah, totally. It's exciting. It's fun. And it gives, I mean, even we don't even know half the science behind it, and here we are talking about it. And I think that's part of the goal, right? Is just get people talking about it.
It is. It really is. So I want to, kind of go from the new into something old and something that's not entirely. It's the Scottish Irish. So I'm going to pull out my Auchentoshan 3-wood, and we've been going for almost an hour now. I figured this is a good time.
Cheers, mate.
Yes, I have my Auchentoshan mugs, but they're kind of dusty. because they're decor. So I'm gonna like not drink from that because it's gonna have a really earthy note.
Taste, hey?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think my cup was clean.
Okay. I could have washed mine. I didn't think to do that, but so the reason I wanted to bring this up is so Auchentoshan is a Scotch. It is one of the few Scotches that is triple distilled in the Irish style. It is a single malt, so it's 100% barley. It's pot distilled, but it's.
So what does it mean, Irish style? Other than that just triple distilled? Because it is Irish style, I think pot still.
No. 50/50 so blend. It's triple distilled in the Irish style of triple distilling, but it is 100% malted barley. But the reason I bring it up is because there was a period, and this was kind of lines up with a few different things in Irish history, most notably the famine, the potato famine, which saw a lot of migration out of Ireland. Right. And a lot of the Irish settled in the lowlands. There were also some war issues that were going on. War is a great displacer of people. And so between some of the wars of the early 1800s and then the famine and all of those things that were happening early in the 18 to mid 1800s, we end up with a lot of Irish settlers in the lowland area of Scotland. And it's Irish settlers that ended up, establishing Auchentoshan as it is and developing, because they were bringing in this triple distilled style. They kept doing that. And so most notably, they are always doing triple distilled single malt, which I thought was interesting. So I whenever I have a chance to bring up Auchentoshan at an Irish tasting, I do it because I'm a bit of a brat that way. And I know you're a bit of a brat too. So
I am. Well, now, and here's my cynical brain thinking, a lot of Irish settlers settled in the lowlands. There was a boom of Irish distilleries that failed for lack of quality control and poor whiskey production, which left them with little to no distilleries. Were the Irish to do with that? No. I joke.
Yeah. The timing's a little bit different.
I was going to Google the timeline, honestly, of the famine to the war to the closing of distilleries to see if those Irish had something to do with the
ones that were leaving, if they
Scotch.
Right.
No.
No. I'm sure there are all those kinds of things that all kind of fall in, but
right.
So you have some Auchentoshan there as well. I've got the 3-wood, so that's it's bourbon, ex-bourbon cask with some Oloroso and I think a bit of PX aging on it too.
Yum.
Yes, yeah. So it's kind of the triple threat that way.
Totally, yeah. It's so good. My father-in-law gifted me the 12 for Christmas, so I just popped it, and it's lovely. They're so smooth. Like there's no fight in these whiskeys, which is great, because if you were to introduce someone to a whiskey, they usually make a face and it's good, but I can't open my eyes right now. Like, and you even see people doing that. They order, I drink whiskey, and then they order the whiskey and they sit there and that's good. Yeah. Really?
Their eyes kind of.
Your face says it's not good, and you're not enjoying it. This is one you could pour somebody, and even if it's not their complete cup of tea, they're not gonna necessarily turn it down if they're a whiskey drinker. But it could do with a few more percentage of alcohol if it was up to me.
So but you know what? Like, I'm looking at it, and I'm actually, like, for my 3-wood, it
Beautiful.
actually has some legginess to it. Like it
Mhm.
has a thickness to it that you don't always get. And so that was actually something when I did a tasting a few years ago, because I think it was the year before COVID hit. Um, and I put this in at the end. So it was an Irish tasting, and we had done all the way through. We had built up from a single grain, and we did the single malt, and when we did Redbreast 12 cask strength. And
Mm.
then after we finished the tasting, I brought out my Auchentoshan 3 wood and we tried it. And it was actually the favorite of the night because it had something. There's that fullness of that 100% malt that just really it carries well, but it is so approachable.
Yeah, even the 12 years bourbon and sherry cask. And I must say, I was drinking a 50% before this, so it took a little bit of adjusting to my palate, but it's still very full bodied and it like coats your mouth really nice. There's really nice, like, there's like a little too much oak almost though for the
Mm,
finish. The palate is just on your tongue. It just that oak just lays there. The 3 wood, you don't get that as much because you get more of those sherry notes. You get a lot of that like nuttiness and the fruit note that tends to carry through on the finish. Um,
yes, I
yeah,
do. And I don't know if it's my bottle of the 3 wood, because I've had the first time I had 3 wood, it was like one of those Costco cookies that's the chocolate chip with like the caramel chunks in it too.
okay. Yeah.
And that's what it reminded me of. Like it had this sweetness
Oh,
and it had all these really interesting things that were going on. And it was the first scotch that I bought. So I can't actually, maybe that was the first bottle you sold me. It was either this one or the Redhead. I can't remember which one you sold me first, but it was one of those two.
we've
Um,
sold you lots of bottles since then,
you've
Teresa.
sold me lots of bottles over the years now, but those are two of
Yeah.
the first ones. But this one, it's more tannic than what I had first experienced, and I think it needs that time to sit. Um,
In the glass.
I yeah, like it
Yeah.
definitely, if it sits, it mellows, and then you get that sweetness that the tannins kind of relax, and it's not as woody.
Yeah.
But it does need that little bit of time. I'm going to put this back up there because Pinch Hitter mentioned that they're not a huge fan of Auchentoshan. They might need to give them, and they mentioned exactly what you said. If they had a bump in the proof, that um, maybe that would make a
Yeah.
difference. So,
It's something
um,
about 43 to 46%. It's not a big number, but it does really affect the mouth feel and a finish of a whiskey. You go too low, and I can't play with this now because I'm not drinking whiskey. Um, uh,
mhm,
Bye, Irene Tan. Thanks for joining us.
yes. Oh,
I'll
she's
come
such good.
visit.
Irene's good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
but it does make a big difference to play with. Again,
mhm.
my bottle was just opened as well, so that could play into also that like heavy oak forwardness that needs time to just get some
Yeah.
oxidation happening, open it up. Um, but I
Yeah.
also
I don't.
did have the Waterfords, and the Waterfords are very delicate whiskeys, but they also have a little funk to them.
They
Um,
do.
Especially the hook head. Like it's so funny. Like I have a friend who um she just likes in like the weirdest whiskeys and like the funky Lechegs and um
Yeah.
just like anything that I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I'm not in love. She's like, oh, I love. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're just weird. So I was telling her the other day that I was drinking Waterford, and she's like, I don't like Waterford. I'm like, but have you tried the hook head? And I said, it's a little funky though. And she's like, oh, I liked the hook head. I'm like, of course you did. It's a funky one. It's like the non-peated whiskey for peat lovers. Like
Oh.
There's some like farmyard notes. There's like another friend of mine said there's like a little corpse note on it, but that's how she describes all peat and funk is corpse.
Oh, kind like that decay,
Yeah,
that woody,
that
yeah,
makes
that vegetative
totally.
base
She's like,
note.
it's kind of corpsey. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I get that. But Hookhead is also in a cove on the coast. So it makes sense
Ah.
that there's kind of that relation. Like I've been on a beach a couple times and it doesn't smell good. Like not
Right.
all beaches smell like they look.
Yes, there are beaches that smell like wet dog because of the way that the seaweed comes through.
Totally.
I was
And like,
camping one time. There was one time when I was camping and I woke up in the middle and I heard something rustling around the outside of the tent and I smelled wet dog. And there weren't a lot of people around and there had been coyotes howling the night before. And
ooh,
I was a little bit afraid that perhaps there was a coyote circling my tent and I'm camping alone
oh, good.
in a campground that has like one person, 500 meters south of me and other people who are like way around the other side. I'm like, I could get eaten and nobody would
No.
know. And then when I actually went outside, I'm like, okay, so the people who had pulled in late at night, half a click down, were the ones with the dog.
Yeah.
But what I was smelling was the seaweed from the lake.
Oh, interesting. I thought maybe the dog went for a late night swim and walked around the
No,
tent.
no. What I was smelling, because when I went for a walk along the beach and it was a very seaweedy, organic-y beach, and I'm like, okay, this
Yeah.
here I am, my brain is going wild, but
Oh, and anytime you're alone in a tent, that's gonna happen. Like we grew up on movies. Like
oh yeah, like
I was thinking
absolutely.
Bigfoot. I was like, oh, I've seen this movie. It's Bigfoot. Don't go outside.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Waterford
Yeah.
has great range in its whiskeys, and they just released a biodynamic, the like first biodynamic
Mhm.
certified whiskey, and I think I'm gonna pick that up because I just have to try it.
And I know people, they kind of balk at the price a little bit because they are
Yeah.
not inexpensive and they are young.
But I mean,
However,
look at I mean, I don't know if a lot of our viewers are from Canada, but I'm sure many are. If you are in Canada right now and you are buying a single malt whiskey, it is absolutely not unheard of to be buying that 3-year single malt for $100.
and that's
Like,
just it. Like your craft distilleries, that they don't have the economy of scale. And even though Waterford has a they got some money behind them, it's still they're not as big as Middleton. They don't have the distribution of a Bushmills. They are technically new. Like
yeah.
they just don't have all the
But
bells and whistles.
you also can't undermine yourself in such a booming category right now. I know there's whiskeys that are coming into the market. Like we want to come in competitive, $79, $89. And I totally get that. People are gonna buy you because of that $10 break. But don't sell yourself short because whiskey is booming and people are in the FOMO mentality of we don't want to miss out and $100
Yeah.
here and $100 there. And it's like, okay, yes, it is a lot of money, but when we're talking about whiskey, unfortunately, it seems to be normal to drop $100 to $150 on an everyday bottle. Now you don't have to,
Yeah.
but for new
Yeah.
distilleries, it seems to be the new norm, which is so frustrating when you can buy a 12 and 15-year established scotch for under $80.
Yes. But
Yeah.
they are also from distilleries that have been around for, 200. Like this is
Yeah, and they're
seriously,
owned by
I'm
conglomerates
gonna
like
put this.
Diageo.
So Next year, Auchentoshan turns 200. Next year.
Crazy.
That's not nothing. You have an economy of scale that comes with that kind of history.
Well, and that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that in a number of years, the stocks will build up and the prices will start to reflect that. I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
I really hope that they don't just go, well, we got away with it before. Let's add on more dollars, because you're going to lose. I think you're going to lose your fanship at that point.
Yeah.
But honestly, who's to say when the bubble's going to burst?
Exactly. So
is that at 21?
Oh, no. It's the 12 cast strength.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to finish on this one. We've been going for just over an hour, and I think it's maybe time to wrap up. So Redbreast has been a classic for a lot of years. The 12 is generally accessible to most people. The 12-year cast strength is usually only like $10 more, and it is definitely more than $10 worth of value that is being added to that bottle. It's distilled at Middleton, which are the makers of Jameson. Jameson's being their blended, Redbreast being their pot still. And so we talked about the pot still before being the ones that are the combination of malted and unmalted barley, which I didn't actually talk about. The reason that they started doing that is because of taxation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you weren't aware, that was the big thing. It was like, oh, well, you're going to tax malted barley. Well, screw you, English, because the Irish like to say screw you to the English.
Yeah.
And it was the English who were imposing the taxes. They said, screw you. We'll just use unmalted barley for some of it. And that's where that whole thing started. So probably should have talked about that earlier in the night, but whatever. We're talking about now. I'm going to finish with Redbreast 12 cast strength. What are you going to go out on? What are you going out on?
I am going to go out on Redbreast with you. I don't have it with me, but I have something to share with you, because I was doing some research and I found these old articles on Redbreast and these old advertisings. And I would love if you would let me read this poetic advertisement about Redbreast 12. So it says, Redbreast liqueur whiskey at your service. You could not wish for a stauncher true friend, always ready to help, refreshing you from your sultry, thirsty-making days of summer, shielding you from the piercing winds and driving rains of winter, and in every season providing itself a most welcome and peace-bringing nightcap. They just don't make advertising like that anymore.
This is bringing me some peace. For sure.
As it should. But yeah, like, I mean, Redbreast has gone through a boatload of changes, label-wise and distillery-wise and blend-wise, but it has always been a staunch friend, as they say in the ad. And I think that's from 1933. So that's again coming up on 100 years. We're not too far away.
That's just it. Like, yeah, I, you know what? There are some really interesting things that go on to whiskey labels.
Yeah.
And I feel like I should read them more than I do.
What did you find?
Because, well, it's just really interesting. So, an uncompromising dedication to quality and to the enduring tradition of Irish pot still whiskey is the hallmark of Redbreast. And then, Redbreast 12 cast strength gives the true connoisseur of fine whiskeys a glimpse of how Redbreast whiskey tastes in its natural, full-flavored state, having spent no less than 12 years maturing in the finest oak casks. Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's not, it's just good. It's just interesting to read. I enjoy kind of finishing some of these things, and I don't know. I don't read the labels as much as I should. Anyways.
I know. I look at them all day long. And sometimes I forget to read them as well. But being in the store that I'm in now, there's so many independent bottlings I've never seen before.
Yes.
So it opens up a whole new vein of research that I need to do, because like the boutique company has some crazy labels. Oh my gosh, I sold you that.
No, you didn't.
No, I sold
this
one
is
to Dan.
Yeah, well, so you sold him the cast strength version of this, which is
Okay.
absolutely amazing. You mentioned independent bottlers, and Blackadder is one of those IBs that I just am enjoying so much. I love their philosophy. I love their approach. The cast strength edition of this one is so good. It's mind blowing how good it is. This is just a standard edition, and this is one of my J bottles.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I love them because they will always remind me of Jay.
They will always remind me of Jay.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Oh my goodness.
Me of Jay.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
I miss him so much. But
me too.
Speaking of IBs, so Blackadder, it's really cool to see some of those that are coming out too. But you're finishing up with this Teeling. Which Teeling are you going out on?
The single malt. 46%. They're standard, lovely single malt.
Okay.
If you would have asked me to do this show a week ago, I would have had Teeling in my house, but I did not. So I had to run to work and steal all these bottles so that I had something to chat with. All I had was Waterford and Proper 12 that my boyfriend bought.
Yeah, we're not. I don't know if I've actually tried the Proper 12. I've not heard anything particularly great about it.
It's
affinity bottling, and I'm just
honestly, tried lots of Irish whiskey and shot more Jamesons in my life than I care to repeat. It's a nice change for the price point. It is a single malt, 12-year sherry cask.
Oh,
at $38.
So maybe not entirely deserving of the.
No, and you shouldn't be shooting it like people shoot Jamesons, but it's reject barrel. It's it's anyways not the worst whiskey I've had. It's not the best. Whatever. I'm so glad that the celebrity behind it is no longer behind it. Whether it continues in its same, he sold it, which is great. I mean, I can't make the sales jokes that I could. I was like, if you want to walk like this, just drink this. But if you want to get an unnecessary bar fights, drink that.
Right.
But whatever. It's a 12-year Irish whiskey for at a reasonable price.
Right.
I think if you're gonna go camping or fishing or whatever, you just want to chug it, go for it.
Right.
I would definitely drink this 12-year before drinking more of that 12-year. Which is why it's not in this room right now, because I don't drink it. Okay, Theresa, I will teach him how to drink.
We're working. Yes, we had a good tasting at Dan and Jackie's.
In fact,
that was a while ago now, but
he keeps saying that I need to reschedule since I'm no longer ill. I need to reschedule our party and do more whiskey tasting, because he's like, I'm getting better at this. I'm getting better.
He is
now. It's been almost 2 years, and he is drinking peat at cast strength levels. So I'm very proud.
Oh, that's good.
But he still buys garbage like Crown Royal and oh wow, it's his money.
So I'm throwing. We normally have someone on who helps with finding everybody's details. So I'm putting your Instagram there. Hopefully, I'm just gonna actually check it and make sure that link works. But tell us where can we find you, Harmony, aside from at Kensington Wine Market in Calgary?
I have 2 Instagrams you can follow if you want strictly booze. My_world of whiskey on Instagram. You'll see a little Glencairn glass for the image. If you want a mixture of booze, food, and fun, and cats, and all sorts of things, you can follow me at Harmony Pollock at Instagram.
I'm gonna see if I can get your Harmony account to come.
At least I think that's what it is. Maybe it's Harmony M Pollock. I don't even know.
Yeah,
That's Harmony Pollock.
Copy.
And it's also
I gotta be my own admin tonight. I don't have. Where is Donald? I need Donald. Somebody, where is Donald Rance when you need him?
Yeah.
All right. So there, you should be able to find Harmony via both of those links, and then I'm gonna see if I can do this.
You did it.
I'm gonna see if I can do for me as well here.
I was gonna say, do you now? Because
do me.
Do it. I love Theresa.
Yes.
Let's follow her again and again.
I can't. I don't know if I can select my own. Come on, where's my linky thing? Anyways, I'm Canadian Whiskey Smith on. I'm just gonna start looking at the camera again. So on Instagram and on Facebook, Canadian Whiskey Smith. Of course, Sarah unfortunately could not be here tonight. She is Whiskey Crusaders. I think it's at Whiskey_Crusaders on Instagram, Whiskey Crusaders on YouTube. They have a Monday night live stream that they do every week. I don't know what's on the agenda for this week, but they will be on. Hopefully her headache is gone and her sunburn is not that bad, and she will be able to participate. And so go over to their channel if I can. Maybe I can find that one quickly too. Like I said, usually we have people in the chat who do these things for us, and none of them showed up tonight. So usually, it's Sarah that looks after all of that stuff for me, so I don't have to do it.
That's so funny. I just want to acknowledge Pinch Hitter Whiskey Lounge's comment. I argue on the Crown Royal, but I know we get the good stuff down here in the US that you guys don't. Yes, that is true, and I'm completely outraged by this. I've vocalized this to Dr. Don many times that we do not get to buy single barrel options. My favorite Crown Royal to date is the Orphan Barrel 21 Crown Royal.
25, wasn't it? I think it was 25.
Oh yeah, 25.
The Entrapment.
Oh my God, is an obscene amount of money, but I bought it numerous times and I would buy it again and again. It was excellent. If you want to arrange, Pinch Hitter, a way that we could exchange some whiskey so that I could try more of the single casks, I would be open to it. But just the standard stuff that we get here, I don't mix drinks anymore. I don't want it. I want something that I can drink and be fine and happy with.
We are seeing some more interesting things coming on the Canadian front. So I think we need to actually we should probably plan a stream to do something. So that we got to do island whiskeys. We got to do Canadian whiskeys. Yeah. And I got to get the rest of the girls on side for that. But next month, Sarah should be back. We are welcoming Michelle. Pardon me. I've been drinking whiskey. I'm getting a little bit burpy here. We are welcoming Michelle from Women of Whiskeys on Facebook and YouTube. She joined us last year for a stream, which was really, really a lot of, so much fun. She is coming back next month. And then in 2 months, we are being joined by Heather, the Cocktail Contessa. She has been on with us several times. She's a friend of the channel. She has a book that is coming out end of April or beginning of May. And so in May, she is going to join us, showcase her book, do a few cocktails, And in June, we will think of something.
Maybe
June's a good time
islands, perhaps.
I know islands go well with summertime, so we might look
Ew.
at doing that. So I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. Thank you to Pinch Hitter and Irene and Michelle and all the others. I cannot remember because my brain is going foggy at this point. So
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Stay on the line. We'll chat after we go off of the broadcast. But cheers to everybody out there. Thank you for joining us. Sláinte.